Welcome to Shop Talk. My name is Pam Ikegami. I am from Ink Kitchen. We're here today to talk about running a shop of every size, from in your basement or garage to a big facility with multiple auto presses and multiple shifts. And we have with us today Lon Winters from Graphic Elephants. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
And also we have Rick Roth of Ink Kitchen and Mirror Image in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Nice applause right from the get-go. All right. So my first question for you guys both is, how did you get into this business, and what do you wish you had known when you started, or what do you wish somebody had told you?
Age before beauty.
So I started in my basement, literally, and I wished I would knew a lot of things. So I didn't even, I'll just show how basic it was. I didn't even know about hand presses. I knew you could get hinges, but I didn't know there were presses, and I didn't have any hinges. So I stretched screens on scrap lumber. I was doing carpentry at the time. I hand stretched them. I coated them. I had a 150 watt bulb and a pie plate, and I did 45-minute exposures with my vacuum being a piece of glass. And I would I bought a speedball ink, which is not a fun drug. It's a hobbyist ink supply thing. And I would put cardboard in every shirt. I didn't have a platen, and I would take the screen and by eye put it on straight. I'm really good with straight. And I printed thousands and thousands of shirts that way. And I'll say that goddamn assholes that sold me shirts didn't tell me there were printers fold shirts, and I had bags of plastic bags because I took Hanes undershirts. And I had piles of those square cardboards that they wrapped the 3 shirts around, and I unwrapped thousands of shirts because I did not know any better.
I'm probably not going to
top that, buddy.
Nah, it's going to be a tough one. So I was smart enough or dumb enough to go to college, and I ended up with a Bachelor of Science and Bachelor of Arts in Mathematics and Fine Arts, and I needed a job, so I got one. And I wish I could say 30-some years later that I knew exactly what I was doing in college, because in kind of my estimation, this business is sort of the magic that is the balance of math, science, art. My friend Michelle says it's the space in between. That's deep, right? So I started reclaiming screens when I was 21 years old, and a buddy of mine got me an interview at Ocean Pacific in Denver, and I packed up everything I owned that fit in the trunk of a car and moved to Denver on an interview.
What kind of car?
Dodge Charger.
A lot of stuff.
It was
then.
badass. Big old white wheels on the back, you know. Took a job reclaiming screens, and within a year at OP, I became the production manager. And I'm a serial entrepreneur and had to do it myself. So again, started in my basement. I stole a press from my first employer. I mean, borrowed it, and printed in my basement. And I read or heard, or Rick probably told me, that you can cure shirts in the oven, and when they smoke, they're done. So that's how I cured my shirts for a few years. That's where
Very
I started.
safe.
Exactly.
Actually, I just remembered, so that was when I had like a business printing shirts for a friend of mine that was an artist. But the first shirt I printed, I just realized this because I saw in my college alumni thing, a picture of this old bio building at the college I went to. And it's a beautiful stone building, the stones from the property even. And they wanted to tear it down because the Olin Corporation, one of the evil ones in this world, had built this other building, and they wanted a clear view over their building. And so I printed shirts that said "Save Old Bio," and everybody was wearing them. And guess what? They never tore it down. So I kind of hooked as an activist and a T-shirt printer,
I was
all
just
in
going to
one.
say, yeah, your activism and your printing coming together right there.
Oh, and I was well prepared by college. I was a philosophy and religion major, and I went to Harvard Divinity School.
Also applies to our business.
What have you said there so you can have a lot to think about?
Yeah, so at
Yeah.
least in my boring job, I got a lot to think about.
All right. So how did you step up? Like, what was your process? Was it intentional? Was it just kind of it happened? Were there people you met along the way who helped you build it to where you are now?
So in my case, I don't know, somebody told me that, I know. I knew somebody that worked at a youth program, and at the youth program, they did T-shirt printing. I went over there, I was like, oh my God, you can do all this stuff? This is a lot easier. And they also took in jobs. So I started having print my shirts. But basically, they did such a lousy job that they were depressed about it. I was depressed about it. And the solution was that off hours, they let me rent the place, and I printed with their crappy stuff. But it wasn't a wood frame and no press. And so...
So how many years did it take you to actually get a press?
So I was using their press after doing this for like maybe 2 years. And then I started doing theirs, but then we also had this giant print with white ink, and it was killing us to print by hand. So I actually invented an automatic. I didn't know there was automatics. I didn't know anyone that would tell me that. So I bought a fill bar, or someone gave me a fill bar. It's a graphic press, and it doesn't have any squeegee pressure on it. So we would put lead weights on it, and we added some, I'm sure, carcinogenic chemical that they don't sell anymore, some detachifier or something, and we would print this giant shirt with white objects on it, petroglyphs, and in one pass. And I don't know. Then so eventually, the youth program, besides letting us use the place, they closed for reasons that is a much longer story. And then I decided I would jump into it myself, and I bought their equipment and rented their space and hired an employee.
Ooh.
How about you, Lon?
Being the serial entrepreneur, I just was sure that bigger is better. And I got an opportunity. I'd started getting kind of involved in the community, doing some writing and workshop seminars, things like that. And I had an opportunity with I'll call it a partnership. Somebody came to me and wanted to build a factory, and they were going to give me a percentage of it, which was small. And I found out the hard way that being a minority owner in a business is really just a glorified employee with ownership responsibilities. So we blew up a business from 0 to $5 million in sales within 5 years. He was hooked to resort retail, had 55 stores, divorced. She got 2/3 of the most profitable, and then he basically took us down with the Titanic. We were profitable to the end, but the stores basically kind of took us apart. I would say that it was the best divorce of my life. It was a miserable, probably 7, 8, 9 years. We had 100 employees, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 3 shifts, 6 automatics, 100 heads of embroidery.
You've been to the mountaintop.
I've been to the mountaintop. We have significantly downsized since then. We took what we thought was good from that opportunity, and we've kind of rebuilt a much different, much smaller, fully automated model. And I took the best people and the best situation. I didn't steal any presses from these guys, and that's kind of where we are today. So I've been to the mountaintop, indeed.
Can you tell us a little bit more about how you automated, what you automated, sort of what decisions you made about adding automation?
You know, it's learning along the way, or kind of learning as you go. You don't even know what's available. Until I start. Again, one of the selfish reasons for being involved in the apparel community or contributing to the apparel community is you get a whole lot back as well. The contributions you get from your peers, people like you guys and others, and mentors in the business that have been there, done that kind of thing. Going to trade shows and such, you start to learn what can be automated. And really, over the last probably 10 years, we've had more automation opportunities than previously. We did run automatic unloaders on our automatic machines, passports, on all but one machine. At the time, they cost $22,000, and an employee, even at $10 or $15 an hour, you pay for that in one shift, 1 year, and less. We had names for them all, Dave and Sue, and none of them called in sick ever. It was fantastic. But we automated what we thought we could. Of course, we got automatic screen print machines, and at that time we had bigger embroidery machines, 15 head, 18 head machines, and we've learned as things have transitioned, it makes more sense to have smaller machines, so when a thread breaks, you only lose 6 heads or 4 heads at a time, or a single head at a time, rather than all 15. So things like that. We applied a lot of screen print techniques and screen print staging, because growing up in it, you had to feed the beast. If you could feed the automatic fast enough, back when we had good size runs, then you could run 3, 5, 7,000 pieces in a shift sometimes, depending on print stroke and number of colors, all those kinds of things. But you had to feed it, so all the energy, the effort came into carts and tables and staging and all. And it still remains today. The most productive shops are the ones that know how to feed the beast. And with smaller runs, it's all about more screens and more squeegees and more flood bars and all those kinds of things. But we automated as much as we could, and then over the last 10 years or so, we've even automated more as far as the like screen making with CTS and automatic developing and reclaim and those kinds of things that are even better today than they were years ago.
Thanks. How about you, Rick?
So I went from one employee in hand printing, then the building got sold out from under us. I had to move. So I rented part of another person's space and started to get into it, and I just really wanted to be like the best. Like, I wanted to print art prints, and met a guy who was equally as engaged in that. And actually before that, so through a friend, I met this guy, Jerry Klaus, who was kind of a character, and he owned Ocean Atlantic Textile, and it was one of the biggest screen printing operations at the time. It was in South Jersey. He printed for Brockham, the big rock and roll company. I think they turned into something else now. And went there, and he had when not that many automatics were around, he had multiple automatics printing 24/7, like Iron Maiden shirts. And he told me really that he always wanted to be the biggest. And so it made it easy to make decisions. If you're going to be the biggest, am I going to buy, at the time, metal frames, not wood frames? Yes. Am I going to go automatic? Yes. He had ink delivery systems he was working on. He wanted to be the biggest. So I want to be the best. As I've said before, many times I wish I wanted to be the richest, because we won every award there was, and the journey was that we just were fanatical. We had a black and white photograph, and we literally separated it 10 times using a contact frame and the camera and all that. Then started using a service bureau, and we did this Robert Duano photograph, and we literally separated it and printed it 20 times. You know how expensive that is, but we were just fanatical. And we basically learned to do simulated process separations that way. At this point, I should mention, I had a garage in the back of my house. there were many moments that I wished that I just stayed, went only from the basement to the garage and set up a little shop. And because you start having employees and all the headaches that involved with that, and you owe a lot of money and you have to come up with your payroll. And I know a couple other people. My friend Real Razor is in Oakland, and he never did more than just himself. Once in a while, someone will help him, but he even had an automatic, like a 1416 automatic, and it was just him. But no employees, just did what he did. The one good thing I think I did is we had a couple manual presses, and to begin with, we subcontracted the work to somebody with automatics and worked very closely with him. Ultimately, because we were trying such a high level of print that we got frustrated and wanted our own press. And we saved our pennies till we could afford a pretty big, good press instead of starting with a little one. And we bought a 12-color MHM. And then we started winning awards and all that. But, it's a ride. One point I had 60 people in the building, and then there were two of us when my streetwear brand Academics, without telling us, stopped sending us 1,700,000 prints a year and went to zero without telling us. That's fun.
Would it have been any better if they had told you ahead of time? What could you have done anyway?
Yeah, might have tried to get it to the clients or something. Maybe.
So as a business owner now, what do you feel your strengths are, your strong points? Like, how did you learn to do what you do well, and what to leave to employees or partners?
I'm still trying to figure that out. This last year's probably been our best financial year that we've ever had, but I'm not sure I've ever worked harder than I had this last year.
Yeah.
I'll just say the same thing. I worked that hard because I'm like in a panic, but I've never worked that hard because things were going well. It's been the hardest year to do well. Not hard to do well, just hard work because it's going well.
And I think it's been good in a lot of, I like to spin things positively one way or the other, but it's been good to kind of be back in to the day-to-day, because I'd stepped out of the day-to-day quite a bit, and we do some consulting work, and we try to teach people how to do things the right way, and I'm not doing them the right way in my own shop. Silly things. We had a stencil problem, and I couldn't find the hygrometers. Like, seriously? We got a $30 item that, they're on my desk. I need to get batteries for those. Like, okay. I wonder why our stencils are wrong. So I think that piece of it's been good, and I'm back to trying to figure out what that looks like. What are the things that I have to do? We've been interviewing virtual assistants, looking at possibly some of those things, and you get the same story from everybody trying to give you a hand. Is I'd recommend you sit down and write down everything that you do, and then try to start highlighting the things that you don't have to do, somebody else that could do. So we're in the middle of trying to define what we can take off of mine and my wife's plates, because during the pandemic, we've kind of had to step back in and do everything that we weren't doing before. So now it's like, okay, now what do we figure out that we can actually offload? And then what you get, and it happens to you, and I'm sure you guys too, you get busy working on or in your business instead of on your business. So we have a lot of ideas, a lot of things we want to work on, but there's no time because we're busy taking care of payroll, we're busy taking care of the bills, busy taking care of, I don't know, making screens, those kinds of things. So we're still figuring that out.
All right, Rick, I know you sit around with your feet up on your desk, chomping on a cigar.
So, I don't know. I forget what the original question was. One thing I want to say is, if you want a big business, you should be a business person. I think a lot of people that are good printers think that they can have a big screen printing business, and either by default you have to learn business, or you have to start. The people I see successful are more business oriented, or one of the partners is business oriented, or they learn to do that part of the business. If you don't understand the numbers, etc., you're better off staying in your garage, I think, if you just like printing. If you like printing, you'll hate a big screen printing business.
But you describe your role at Mirror Image in a certain way.
My role? Yeah, I mostly do sales. I got someone that helps me with the financial information. Pretty good salesperson, I think. That's what probably drives most of it. We have two businesses. I have a partner, and part-time sold $4 million this year. That's pretty good. But I'm not out there printing too much.
Right. But you did print in the past, so you
Yes.
know
Yeah,
what it should be and what it should look like. And
it helps, but that's not the deciding factor, you know. Hiring good people is important, watching your numbers, but mainly hiring good people. I think that's what I've been the best at. I've had really, really good employees that were really into it, and we could not have done the award-winning stuff or the special effects we have, et cetera, without having good people. Besides good people, like also giving them the opportunity to learn. You know, if you're afraid you're going to lose them, they won't go out in the world, and if they don't go out in the world, they won't learn a lot. So, you know, yeah, did I lose some employees that went somewhere else? Yes, but the ones that stay are super loyal, and I have some of the most talented people that have ever been in the business have worked for Mirror Image. So, I mean, Michelle Moxley, you know, she worked at Mirror Image, you know, Made Lab people, you know, all kinds of people have worked at Mirror Image, and that's probably been the key to what we've been able to do.
And what are the ways that you help them learn their craft?
Yes.
What are the ways?
Oh.
For example.
Oh, well, come to trade shows, you know, force them to watch shop talks. No, I think letting them make mistakes, allowing for experimentation, you know. You know, we would separate and re-separate things. That's not a very good way to make money, is to re-separate and reset up jobs. But if you're going to get good, you have to do it, and you have to build that into what you're about.
Yeah, there is a balance, and it's hard to strike, especially when you're like Rick or myself. You're pushing so hard to get that something dialed in on a print maybe that the customer doesn't care about or wouldn't notice. But I think it's how you build your reputation in so many ways. And as far as the people, we kind of meet in weekly kind of creative settings, creative meetings that we try to, the opportunities you get, and you guys have had some too, to print at a trade show, to do demo work at a trade show. You don't want to show up with weak work. You don't want to show up with a moire pattern in your white printer to Germany for the very first one that you ever do. But those are the ways that your people can get involved in the trade, but also you definitely want to put your best foot forward. A, so they ask you to do it again, but B, maybe you can get paid for it, and that's pretty helpful as well. But just getting them involved in the community, as well as myself, has been important for us too. And like you said, you lose some people that way, but at the same time, it's a journey. You're riding your way through it.
Yeah, but you lose them, but they stay your friends, and they stay your supporters and allies, and sometimes when you're in a pinch, that's a huge help, I believe. Yeah.
Yes.
So I know you're sort of, you know, screen printers. You're known as screen printers, but if you walk the show floor, there's so much other equipment out there now. Like back in the day, like how did you decide what to add beyond your presses? And also, if somebody was starting today, you know, it's kind of hard to run a shop if all you do is screen printing. What do you think people need to have or need to offer?
I don't want to talk about DTF anymore. If I have to talk about DTF, I'm just kidding, everybody. I'm just kidding. No, just like DTF is the talk of this trade show, and it's kind of fun in a way that finally there's something new to talk about. It reminds me of DTG 20 years ago. Everybody's got a solution, and mine's better. You just don't want to buy a T-Jet right now. That's all I'm saying.
Fair, fair.
But I think being involved in the community gives you an idea of what else is out there. What else can I offer to my core customer? If I'm offering screen print, that's what I grew up doing. What will that customer buy as well? Well, if I'm doing screen printed T-shirts, they're probably buying embroidered hats. I'm not doing that. I can source them, but if they're getting them direct from a embroiderer, I likely can't compete. So we kind of looked at, and we jumped into embroidery in a huge way when we did. And I wish I'd have taken my time a little bit and waited just a few years as we learned that smaller machines make more sense than larger machines. But when you look around here, I mean, you could offer 6 different decorating techniques. So I don't know that you can offer everything, but it's always wise to see what else you might be able to contract out to people that have those other disciplines, or just looking at, I mean, DTF's a thing, whether I like it or not, it's a thing. So those kinds of opportunities are always
Doesn't
out
seem
there.
ready for prime time yet. It's almost.
Go along with that.
Almost.
Getting there.
You just mentioned contract. I think if you're small, is the first thing to do. You have to have customers, and that's going to drive everything. If you have the right customers, you're going to be able to afford an automatic, whatever. A lot of people buy an automatic and think they're going to get customers because they have one. That does not seem to work out very well.
Build it and they will come?
No, it doesn't work. So you want to work with someone you trust, which there are actually, believe it or not, quite a few contract decorators, embroiderers, screen printers, pad printing, whatever you got to have done. And I think that you partner with people, you're honest with them, maybe you tell them eventually you want your own machine. Because even if you sub out a ton of embroidery and then you get a machine, you're not suddenly going to be able to do it all on your machine. You're going to need that person again. You just got to be honest, I think. And you can build your business that way. Like I said, we contracted out to a screen printer that had automatics, and, eyes wide open, he knew when we were going to get one. We continued to send him some work. You got to have the customers first. That has to drive everything. The one cheap thing you can do right away, though, is, if you get a good transfer machine, like any of them that heat from the bottom, you can do so much with a transfer machine. And we've won every award as best screen printing company, and I'm all about transfers. Transfers are a very good solution for a lot of decorating questions, and it doesn't cost a lot.
And there's some big transfer suppliers that can do about anything for anything. So if you're doing nylon, they have the right material that goes on nylon. You're doing polyester, they have the right material that goes on that. So there's a lot of places you can get pre-built transfers at minimums as low as, say, 10 pieces.
You definitely want to go to all of them. We use Supercolor, we use FM Expressions, we use Stalls, Transfer Express, it's the same company. Howard, Apollo, I think it's called, or something. We use all kinds of, they all have a specialty, Lion Brothers or whatever it is, Lion something. Anyway, at a show, acquaint yourself with every transfer company, because they're going to have some solution for you, and it's going to be, you got to put something on a collar or a weird pocket or something like that. Transfers are going to be the solution. And they're not the transfers of old.
They're also going to have free samples for you.
Yes, to try out. Yep.
Wait, I have one more question for you guys. So looking forward, Lon, you said you've been a big shop. Now you decided you didn't want to be a 24-hour operation. What's your plan, and is it hard to maintain the size you want to be without making it bigger?
I've never had a plan. No, it's harder to plan maybe than it's ever been, but I would say again, through some of the opportunities and the pandemic being what it has been, we go through the exercises. I'm the craftsman. I'm not the business person. I need more. When I'm asked about helping people with their businesses, I'm not the right guy. I'll teach you how to get the very best screen print you can get. But so learning that about myself has helped me, because I can get advice, I can get help from other people in those areas, particularly on the sales side. We're not good at sales either. But any sales book or any advice you get from somebody would say, you've heard the 80-20 rule. You're supposed to not do business with the 20% bottom of your customers, because you're spending 80% of your time with them, and you need to focus on the blah 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 blah. By default, our 20% just fell off because we couldn't get to them. We don't have the resources, we don't have the people, we can't get the product, we can't, whatever reason, our 20% just fell off. Our profitability went up. Now my plan, back to the original question, is to try to look at that 80-20 thing constantly. And it's so easy for us to not, now even my staff, to identify one of those dogs. It's like, this is the kind of crap we got to stop doing.
Yeah.
And it's been educational for us, my wife and I, but also for our staff. They easily identify the kind of stuff we shouldn't be doing, and we work real hard on not doing it next time.
And what do you say to those customers?
Goodbye.
Sorry, we're busy.
So
4 weeks
long,
out.
been good to know you.
We raised our prices across the board, and that helps some. We were in the middle of a 5-location, 5,000-piece lime green polyester job that drives me. It's one of those jobs, so I'm positive we're getting killed on this. So midstream, I'm trying to get a conversation with the customer, because I need to raise my prices. I need to raise my prices. Can't get a return phone call. Can't get a return email. I finally texted her and said, your price went up 30% today. And she gave me the thumbs up emoji.
Wow.
So much like we get the letters from our manufacturers, Avient and everybody else, on a bi-weekly basis, that if you can get the product, which you likely can't, it's going to go up 15%. And labor is the same way. You can't get anybody to come to work for less than $15, $18 an hour to start. Well, you don't even have to be any good at it. So our prices have gone up, so we've got no choice, and using the matter-of-fact style seems to be working. Just, hey, sorry, prices just went up 30%.
Wow.
Yeah, we raised our minimums and raised our prices, and I think the goal is less contract printing. It just doesn't work out. If you make a mistake when you're a responsible contract printer, it's so costly when you make a mistake that you can't make it up with contract printing prices when you weren't making the markup on the garment. And more, that doesn't seem like a great way. It's a good way to keep busy. It's not a great way to make very much money.
Gotcha. All right. Let's open it up to questions. Anybody have any questions for these experts? Yep.
You're saying, is contract worth it? All right, so the reason contract isn't worth it, I think I'm famous now for admitting my mistakes.
You're still here.
Recently we printed for an ASI company, a promotional product company, and we printed a road race shirt for them on like technical fabric, kind of expensive garments. And my art person had just had COVID, and I really, she makes no mistakes, and she wrote 2020 instead of 2021. We had to eat all those shirts. We had to replace them and print them. Try it like, whatever it was, $1.29 per print to make enough money to pay that, $7,000 worth of garments and resetting that up. It's just not very lucrative, and it also depends how it is. I talked to someone the other day, and they contract work, but it comes to you like really clearly. The art is clear. we have contract printers that are like, do you have our shirts? What shirts? Like, what are you talking about? Oh, we'll send you a list later, but do you have them? You know, and they're just like disorganized, and they email us 47 times a day, and it's a lot of customer service work for short money. They're taking the bulk of it. So the good thing is, you know, basically you're outsourcing your sales. You're outsourcing your financing. You know, a lot of people do contract because they don't have the financing. I've realized I have the financing. I have good credit with all of the shirt distributors, mills, etc. I don't really need them. Like, you know what I mean? And we're really busy, so I don't need that constant influx. So I'm going to keep some, but I know people mostly do better if they have a mix. And by the way, everybody that takes contract work, there's either people that then have direct customers and liars. That's it. There's not contract people that don't do any direct customers. Don't fool yourself. So can you buy, the question is, can you use it as a stopgap measure to get your equipment and keep it busy?
Just go back to my example. We went from $0 to $5 million in just a couple of years. We went from 1 automatic to 6 automatics in just those few years. My bottom line was exactly the same at 1 million as it was 5 million. So I'm working that much harder for the same bottom line, and it's thin already.
It really depends on the customers too. I mean, I've known people that have people they print for, and the people they print for will like buy them equipment and, you know, make investments in their company, and they really treat it like a partnership. I have a couple customers like that that have helped me out, that have, even though it's our fault, taken a big part of the mistakes. So, you know, look who you're contracting for. A lot of those people are really not, they like their money. You know, I remember one of them at the show, and I was standing talking to him, and he's like, you know, you got to do whatever you do to put food on the table. And I turned to my friend, I was like, he's talking about driving to the supermarket in a Lexus. We're talking about the food. Like, some of those people, their idea of like, I'm not making anything on this is your idea of making a lot on it. So you just got to be careful, and it's not usually that lucrative that you're going to do great. Probably what you said, like, it's a means to an end. It might keep you busy and make your machine payments or your loan payments.
All right. Any other questions?
You said that you waited to get like a 8-color machine versus getting like a 6-color auto. Like,
Right. So the question is, I waited to have an 8-color machine instead of a 6. No, I waited to get a 12-color machine, a 1214. But I had a very specific thing I was trying to do. So, you know, we wanted to do this art, and we were working on simulated separations. Before simulated even, that we didn't know what's called that, by the way. We just invented it at the time. We did split channel, so we would do CMYK, but 2 cyan and 2 red channels to get more control, so you get a bright red and a faint red, whatever. And so I knew where I was going. I wanted to do that. It wasn't like I wanted to take bigger jobs. I wanted to print, because you can never print by hand like a machine. You know, a lot of things have a beauty, their craft, you know, by hand. Nah, printing by hand sucks. You're trying to print like a machine. So a machine does better, or at least a good machine does. So I waited, I bought the best machine, I thought, MHM, and a 12 color, and I subbed out the work until I could afford that.
All right.
And it's bigger is always better when it comes to number of heads, because you think you only need a 6-color, but you're not thinking about flashes, you're not thinking about cool stations, you're not thinking about the add-on smoothing, this and that. There's a lot of things that take up stations, and we always kind of advise people to get as big a press as you can afford. You're going to fill the heads one way or the other.
Yep. Another question? All right, question is, what was the biggest mistake you've made?
No, he said all of us, so you could say marrying me.
I'm good.
Biggest mistake, there's a lot. So I gave a talk at a Printavo thing. It was, I think, an hour and a half of mistakes. So you can look it up on the internet. Oh my God, last night a guy approaches me. He's like, Rick, I always wanted to meet you. I saw that video of you talking about your mistakes. I watched it 5 times. I was like, oh my God. It's like, the guy's been in my closet looking at my dirty laundry. So we printed, I think it was 80,000 shirts for a customer, and it had beer foam on it. It was like perfect pint glass and bottle, and the foam after 2 weeks started to turn pink. No. So what happened is, it was a real faint tan, and the recipe for the tan had like very small amounts of red pigment and very small amounts of yellow pigment. And unbeknownst to me, that it's not that stable apparently. So the red pigments were coming out and the yellow were receding, and not all of them turned pink, and it was to a degree. And I'll mention him by name. So Danny Sweem, who's the head of M&R. I don't have M&R equipment, but he is like one of the most upstanding guys I know. He worked at Rutland, and he actually was going to quit if they didn't help me. Their insurance and them paid my customer to accept the shirts. So there's a lesson there, which is to have friends. Like, you're going to go across the street for like, 10 cents on your emulsion or your ink. Don't expect that person to have your back. Like, I have had my back by a lot of people because I'm very loyal. What I mentioned before with the 2020, I'm not going to get into the details of to what degree, but the people at SAM have my back. Someone's like, they did what? I was like, well, they know. I would walk on hot coals for them. And, it's a two-way street. And, something's going to go wrong, and you better have people on your side.
I'd agree 100%. Rick and I have different partners in the business, but we have kind of that same loyalty to a fault in some degrees. But when you do get in trouble with those kinds of things, you get some help. But probably my biggest mistake was years ago. The Final Four was in Denver, and Arkansas had I think they won the national championship that year. They had qualified for the Final Four, so we were doing Final Four shirts with the 4 teams. And we were so paranoid. I didn't grow up in Arkansas. I grew up in Nebraska. The N stands for knowledge on the helmet, And we were so paranoid about Arkansas having the S at the back end, right? You spell Arkansas with an S, even though you don't pronounce it. We'd forgotten the other S on 40,000 pieces. And that was our contract experience with license holders and hot market business that left a real bad taste in our mouth because we had to replace the shirts. We didn't have to replace the shirts. They replaced the shirts, but we had to do the 40,000 we didn't get paid for. So we ended up printing 80,000 pieces for 40,000 piece price.
That's actually a good lesson about the concentration thing. We, in the early days of process, one of those split things we were doing, it was a clock tower in Lawrence, Massachusetts, and it was a full color reproduction when nobody was doing that. It was really hard. So we focused on that. And it was like the Greater Lawrence Agency, a great day for Lawrence. We counted later, 19 different people had worked on that, from the artist to the person shooting the screens to the printer to customer, and about 800 shirts in on like 2,000 shirts. A friend of somebody came in and goes, Lawrence is spelled wrong. It's spelled right on the top and it's spelled wrong at the bottom. And like, we were concentrating on one thing and you missed something else. That is a very good lesson. I mean, it wasn't even you had to know how to spell Lawrence. It was wrong in one place and right in the other on the same shirt.
Yep. For me, I work mostly in e-commerce and fulfillment at Mirror Image, and I'm a pretty careful person. I double, triple, quadruple check things.
She is a very careful person that makes no mistakes.
But I was doing fulfillment for an organization we work with, and it's a nonprofit, and they have people who send in $75 donation, and they get a special shirt, and they provide me the information on Google Sheets. So I have Google Sheets with a lot of tabs, and I use ShipStation for fulfillment. So I upload that info into the app. I took the one sheet with 800 people and double uploaded it and sent out 800 individual shirts in duplicate, and didn't realize it till they were out the door, well out the door. And had to go to the organization and be like, oh my God, I'm sorry, but I really screwed up. And they were and I was like, you saw me, I was dying over it. And they were just like, you know what? Everybody makes mistakes. We've had people here make worse mistakes. Don't worry about it. Andy?
Oh, so the question is, do we take relationships with small printers if we don't take those small jobs ourselves? Yeah, I do. I have a friend who only manually prints, and I send him some work. Not so much anymore. We tend to more like we'll do a DTG prints for them or something like that, or we just won't deal with it. More than getting the job done efficiently is getting the information efficiently, and it's too much work. The person too often, and I hate it because I really want to be egalitarian, but the person that has 50 shirts that orders from the high school across the street from us, they want to see the shirt, they want to come while we're printing it, they want to see the colors, they want to do this. And the person from the beer company that orders 10,000 shirts, they don't even have time to talk to me. They send the PO and might send an email, you got that? And that'll be it. So unfortunately, it's real hard to be as nice to everyone as you would like to, because it's just too much work. You can't charge enough for that.
I'd say that's the 80-20 thing again, because that's what we just found. We didn't have the resources to even communicate with those 20%. If you can't communicate with them and they're that much work, it's just really hard to by default, we're losing those customers, and I think it's good.
Yeah, if I knew the right person, because if you have low overhead, like you are working in your basement or your garage, or you just do it on the side and make do with a vinyl cutter or something like that, you can make some money on the side doing that. We just have too much overhead to do that.
All right. Any other questions? If you do have questions, Lon and Rick will be around after the talk. I want to thank Lon Winters, Graphic Elephants, Rick Roth, Ink Kitchen, and Mirror Image, and especially Impressions, who puts on the show as our sponsor, and Haynes, who has their booths right over there. Thanks so much.
Thank you.